What's good, my people? It's your boy Godfrey here at Sober Take Boxing, and today we're going to be talking about the big question mark over Moses Itauma. Look, let's just dive straight into it. Moses Itauma, is he a talent? Man, he is the real deal. I think he is fantastic. I've watched some of his fights, and let's be honest, he looks really, really good against some of the fights that he's had. I think all of them, to be honest with you, explosive, sharp, quick, agile. Looks like he understands ring generalship. I think he has a high IQ. Reminds me slightly, almost a bit like Terence Crawford, in the sense that he throws with just inches, like in between punches. It's that minuscule of level of detail of when he throws. I think that's when he's so dangerous. He throws just when the other opponent tries to throw his shot. So I think he is the real deal. I think he's fantastic. However, I think there is still a big question mark over him. And let's be honest, I think he's looked too good. It's such an odd thing to say, to be honest with you, because you would expect me or expect people to think, well, if he's looked too good, well, then that's a good thing, right? And I think that is a good thing, but I think that could be a downfall for him as well. I think that's his dilemma at the moment. And I think there's a particular law of boxing where all the greats, I would say, have gone through a particular process to get where they wanted to get to. Essentially and ultimately, they were looking to become a world champion. The likes of Usyk, Vasily Lomachenko, Floyd Mayweather, Vladimir Klitschko, Lennox Lewis, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson. All these fighters took a particular or went through a particular process to become a world champion. And to some degree, there have been some of those fighters that have been fast tracked. Some of them have not been so successful, and some have. But I think there's a particular standard to the law of boxing where you have to go through a certain amount of fights to get to a particular stage within their boxing career. So I'm just going to walk through some names, of course, that I've just mentioned a few seconds ago, a lot of those that you'll be familiar with, and I'm just going to go through what some of the greats did themselves to get to where they wanted to get to. So in my opinion, I think up until now, Moses Itauma have faced journeymen. Let's be honest, he hasn't faced anyone of note like Dillian Whyte. And Dillian Whyte has beaten former world champion. Oh, he's beaten former world champions, actually, plural, to be honest with you. He's fought very tough fighters. He's fought world title contenders, and he's got a strong resume. He really does have a strong resume, and he's gone through the storm. He's been knocked out. He's been knocked down. He's had difficult fights. He's gone through storms. So let's be honest, Moses hasn't fought anyone like Dillian Whyte. So we're going to look at some of the fighters, I would say the greats, that have, and look at what track did they take. Were they fast tracked? Who did they face? And we're going to have a look and see what they've done. So we'll start off with Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, fantastic fighter, if not one of the greatest to ever do it. He's had over 90 amateur fights. He won the silver medal, fell short with gold. I think he should have won gold, but unfortunately he didn't. That's boxing for you. And he fought Hernandez, I believe. I even think before Hernandez he fought is it Reggie Sanders? But with Floyd, I believe he fought Tony Pep even actually. Tony Pep um, on in 1998, and that was his 17th fight. And Tony Pep challenged actually for the IBF world title against John Molina. So Tony Pep ultimately is like someone like Dillian Whyte, who's fought for a world title as well. But Floyd Mayweather done that in his 17th fight. And the difference is with that one is Floyd also had 90 amateur fights, 90 plus amateur fights, right? Whereas Moses Itauma only had 24 amateur fights. So though he's done really well and he's never lost, guys, you have to remember that Moses Itauma has never lost in his amateurs. And he hasn't had an extensive amateur career. 24 fights in the amateurs is not a lot, you know, so he hasn't had much variation of fighters, really, let's be honest with you. So I do think the question mark and the dilemma that Moses faced right now is that he hasn't had many amateur fights and he hasn't lost. You have to lose in the amateurs. How are you going to learn if you don't lose? And it's not because I don't even believe Moses is this anomaly, you know, he like this anomaly. He's, you know, he's not immortal. He's still a human being, right? And you have to ask the question, why did they fast track him as fast as he has? Like fast track him so quickly, even in the amateurs. Get the experience, and take your time. But of course, look, he's fantastic. As I said, he's really, really good. He's great. So I can understand why they've done it. He looks amazing when he does fight. He's got, of course, the ability. He's got raw talent. So let's be honest, like, we can see why they fast tracked him. So as I said, Floyd Mayweather, the 17th fight. Vasily Lomachenko, he's had just under 400 amateur fights, guys. Lomachenko has had 400 or just under 400 amateur fights. Obviously he was a gold medalist as well. And I said it in my previous video, in his second fight he faced a world champion, which was Orlando Salido, and he lost actually. So think about it, he still just had under 400 amateur fights and Lomachenko still lost. Just shows you, like, the pro games and the amateurs are very, very different, very different. But yeah, he fell short. And as I said, this what happens in boxing time to time. We move over to Alexander Usyk. He's had over 350 amateur fights, so he had a very extensive amateur career. He's also won gold as well in the Olympics. And in the 7th fight, he faced Johnny Muller. Johnny Muller wasn't necessarily a world title contender. He's had, you know, European titles. However, he did fight Krzysztof Glowacki in his 9th fight for the world title actually, and beat him, of course. However, let's be honest, Alexander Usyk is a gem, and not just that, he's had over 350 amateur fights. So again, if we had to compare it to Moses Itauma, two different tracks really, two different tracks. Mike Tyson, he faced James Tillis in his 20th fight. Tillis fought Mike Weaver for the WBA in 1981. And still, okay, it's not as extensive amateur career like Alexander Usyk or Vasily Lomachenko, but he still had over 50 amateur fights. So more or less double than what Moses had. So that's experience for you there. You can't shortcut. Can you shortcut experience? Well, you know, your ability is great, but experience is important, and you have to build that up. You have to lose. Mike Tyson lost in the amateurs, and you have to have learning fights. Muhammad Ali, 100 amateur fights, and he faced Archie Moore, I believe, in his 16th fight. In the 16th fight, he fought Archie Moore, who was a world title contender. He fought Rocky Marciano for the world title. So again, I'm telling you that a lot of these individuals, before they even fought world title contenders, they were a lot later down in their careers. And not just that, they've had extensive amateur careers. Vladimir Klitschko, over 130 amateur fights, was also a gold medalist, I believe, in the Atlanta Games as well. In his 16th fight, he fought Phil Jackson, who was also a world title contender. He fought Lennox Lewis for the WBC heavyweight title. Lennox Lewis, moving on, had over 90 amateur fights, also was a gold medalist, and he faced Mike Weaver in his 14th fight, guys, 14th fight. And then in his 15th fight, he faced Tony Yucker as well, who was also a former IBF heavyweight champion. So as you can tell, there's a particular pattern here where a lot of these guys are facing world title contenders in their 15th fight, in the 17th fight, the 16th fight, a lot later down the line. And not just that, they've had extensive amateur careers compared to Moses Itauma anyway. So there's a pattern. When you look at even the lower weight classes, you can tell a lot of them will take a bit more of a risk. Lomachenko fought Orlando Salido in his second fight. You've got even Usyk as a cruiser, took a bit of a risk as well and fought Glowacki in his 9th fight, who was a world champion. I'm not sure if it was a world champion, but it was for the world title in his 9th fight. But then again, you have to remember Usyk had 350 amateur fights at the time as well, and that was 3 years in his professional career before he even went for the world title. So a lot of these fighters took their time before they challenged for a world title. A lot of these fighters took their time to even fight world title contenders, right? Some of these greats. And it just shows you that you've got to take your time. You can't just throw yourself in there and expect that your abilities are gonna hold you up. And I think abilities, of course, is important, but can ability substitute experience? And I just don't think that's the case. I don't think you can, overstep experience with ability. And I've seen some of the videos where, people say, where he doesn't make up with it on their experience, his ability makes up for it. And I get it. I get the sentiment, but at the same time, you can't prepare yourself for a broken nose or elbowed in the face or a cut. Like, how do you don't know how to even respond. Your body doesn't even know how to respond to it yet, and when you look through some of the fights that he's had, he hasn't gone beyond 6 rounds. So what happens when your body's going beyond 6 rounds under the lights? What happens when your opponent's got 10-ounce gloves and lands on your chin? And I did see a video of him with TalkSport saying, look, the best boxers don't look to get tested because, why do I want to get my chin tested? And I get that, as he said, boxing is about hit and don't get hit. Yes, but when you go up a level, you're gonna get hit. And it's the saying, like, how can you swim without getting wet? You are gonna get hit, and I don't know whether if it's him being naive or maybe believing the hype about himself. And I think that's going to be his downfall, where ultimately he may look at himself like the perfect boxer, the boxer that can never be beaten, the immortal boxer. And pride comes before the fall, right? So this is where he has to be really, really careful, where they're not going into this fight expecting that they're just going to get him out of there, or it's just going to be a walk in the park, and it's not going to be the case at all. So this is something that he needs to ask questions about himself. So does his team. And I think, again, there's nothing new under the sun when it comes to development. You can't overcome the law of boxing. You have to take slow steps, and I just don't understand why they didn't go for maybe of a puzzle type fight. You know, go for someone like Michael Hunter, where you got to solve a problem, solve a puzzle. You know, or Tony Yoka, someone who is going to be difficult, who's going to ask, you know, that will ask questions, right? But not someone that carries a lot of power, that's going to put you through a storm and could even smother your work, and, you know, can even kill your confidence throughout your career. I don't think it's worth picking a fighter like Dillian Whyte so early in his career, because it's a storm type of fight. It's not a puzzle type fight, and it would have been better for him to have fought someone where he needed to solve a problem, right? More of a tactical type fight. But I think this fight could really go wrong. Honestly, I actually believe this fight could really, really go wrong for Moses, because I just don't understand why the team decided to fight someone like Dillian Whyte. I understand why, because of course he hasn't looked great against Ebenezer Tete. He didn't look good against Marius Wack, but at the same time, those fights, he wasn't in the best of places. So if they decide to pick Dillian Whyte based on those fights, I think they're really in for a surprise, honestly. So as I said, you know, Moses isn't some sort of anomaly who's, you know, discovered a shortcut over a great that no one's found. I don't think that's the case. I don't think Usyk, Vladimir Klitschko, Lennox Lewis, Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson was, you know, managed to get to where they got to in a way where, you know, I just find it strange where Moses Itauma is a great boxer. Again, I take nothing from him, but again, he's not immortal. He's just a human being like all those fighters. So I get why he's being fast tracked. I really do. But I don't think he can skip experience, you know. And if that's the case, it's a high risk. You can't skip something without needing to swim. Not that type of fight, you know. And for me, again, as I said, you know, styles make fights. I think you should have gone someone that would ask questions, not running through a storm. And this fight is this type of storm type of fight. And again, it's people asking the question, you haven't been tested. He hasn't been tested. He has not been tested. He's not fought someone like Dillian Whyte. So I think he needs to be very careful in this fight. Anyway, guys, please let me know what you guys think. How do you see this fight going? Again, I haven't made a prediction yet. I am hoping to make a prediction in the next couple of days. But let's be honest, I think Dillian Whyte looks in great shape. I think this is really a real good fight. Looking forward to it. But anyway, guys, hope to see you guys soon. Peace. Boom.